Hey everybody, it's Andrew with the AFC Dad, afcdad.com. Wanted to take a few minutes and take a quick break from the Hard Topics series to talk to you about something that happened to me 2 Saturdays ago when we actually thought that I might die. And my wife told me that I had to tell the story, or she was going to tell the story, and I love her, but if she was to tell that story, the fish, it'd get real big. So, sitting in quarantine at the house, trying to figure out things to do, running out of things to do that are easy and all of that. My older 2 boys and I love to go hiking. We don't do it probably as much as we should, but we do enjoy it. And so from time to time, I like to just go take them out, and they like to go. We like to go do a couple miles on a trail and just get outside. So 2 Saturdays ago, it was a hot day. Got out of the house a little bit later than we wanted to, but it wasn't hot. That's unusual for where we live in North Carolina this time of year. And it was a little humid, but again, it wasn't like it can be around here. So we left the house and drove about an hour and a half away to a state park we had not been to before. And that's something kind of looking at for the balance of the summer, like where are some places we can go we've never been. So went to this state park, and beautiful state park, and went up there and we were hiking, and it was like a 3-mile loop trail around the park, which are my favorite because I hate backtracking when you go hiking. I hate going out and coming back. I like the loop trails. You kind of get to see a lot of stuff, and you don't have to repeat. Anyway, the name of the park, it has a mountain in it, but it's not really a mountain. It's really a big hill. And so we were walking around the hill, and we walked down by the river, and we were about 2 miles in, and all of a sudden the trail turned real steep, and it was following under the path of these like high voltage transmission lines. And so it was like a clear cut in the woods, and the sun was really beating down, and it was really hot, but it wasn't bad. We were drinking water. All 3 of us had liter bottles of water. We were working our way through. We were feeling good, laughing, joking, just having a really good time, seeing people every 5 minutes or so. It wasn't really crowded, which was nice. But we get more than 3/4 of the way up this hill, and it's a little steep, but again, wasn't the steepest thing I ever hiked. My oldest son and I went to the mountains back in April, and we hiked literally straight up a mountain for 4 miles, and that didn't seem to bother me. So get within like a dozen steps of the base of one of these like high voltage transmission lines where I guess the trail turned and whatnot, and within like 10 seconds I felt this overwhelming wave of nausea, and I was like, whoa, I gotta sit down. So I sat down for a second, drank some water. Things started spinning a little bit, and there was this little spur trail off to the side that it actually had a sign that said "not a trail," which was kind of odd to me, but it was, I guess maybe someone had just made it over there. And I look up and I see that, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to puke here in a second. And so I told my sons, I said, hey, I'm gonna just step over here and real quick, just don't follow me, and I'll be right back. And like, it was feeling great to, just in like less than a minute. Anyway, so I step over on the trail, and I don't vomit, but I pass completely out. I'm talking blackout, landed in the dirt. I kind of opened my eyes after a little bit, and I was seeing clouds, and I was seeing sky, and I could hear my oldest son on the phone with 911, which, y'all, I'm really glad that he knew to do that. But and I could tell by the conversation, it was kind of like, felt like I was in a dreamlike state. Like when you're napping on the couch and the kids are playing around you, and you're aware of what they're saying, but you're not really aware of what they're saying. And it seemed like maybe they had been on for a little bit. And about that time, another random hiker came by and took my pulse, and I heard somebody else talking to the boys, and I heard, and then I kind of fell back asleep, for lack of a better word, or whatever state I was in. And then I heard my younger son on the phone with mom, because, you know, me being the great dad that I am, I took them away hiking, but I really didn't tell her where we were going. She didn't know that it was going to be an hour and a half away. So, and the boys, bless their hearts, they don't know where we're at. So anyway, so they're there, and I'm really glad that we were under the high powered transmission line, and there was that little sign that said not a trail, because my oldest son had the presence of mind to tell all these details to the dispatcher, and the park ranger had been dispatched too, and they knew exactly where we were at. It just, we were so far down in the woods, it was going to take a few minutes to get there. So anyway, after about, I don't really know how much time has passed, the crew gets there, and I am numb. Like, my body is numb. I have a lot of pain. I can hardly breathe. Really kind of in and out, but my body is like completely numb. Like, the dispatcher asked my son to help me take my asthma inhaler. I couldn't lift my arm to do it. Like, I just had no feeling in them. And so, you know, they were like, do you want us to carry you out? And I'm like, oh, should we just give it a few minutes? And they said, yeah. They said, we would prefer you walk out because we're really far in. They said it'd be really hard to carry out. And I'm like, okay. So anyway, just gave it a little bit of time. By this point, the park ranger had already taken the boys down one way, and I'm trying to get my bearings, and my wife is on her way, and she had called a friend of ours that's really like an aunt to the boys to come get them, that lives a whole lot closer. And so I get myself together, I get my feeling back, and I start walking, and I'm really dizzy and woozy and all of this. And they do a lot of stuff when I'm up there. They take my blood pressure, they do a sugar check, they give me oxygen, chart all of this stuff while right there on the trail and all that. Anyway, able to get off the trail very slowly. It took probably about an hour to walk a mile. And they used some trail that wasn't like an official trail. It was one like locals had made to access the park and all that, but they knew that that was the shortest route out. So went down there and went to the ambulance, was sitting in the ambulance, and my wife got there, and she immediately grounded me. I got the 3 name call right there in the back of the ambulance, and I was perking up, feeling a little bit better. They had put in, you know, they had given me some medicine and some other stuff and water, and feeling better. Boys were there with our friend, and then they, you know, encouraged me to go to the doctor, or go to the hospital. And we were kind of like on the fence about it because I was feeling better, and they were like, really? And so my wife, she took me over to a community hospital that was nearby. And what was awesome was the paramedic said, hey, if we take you, you get a bill for this whole experience. But if your wife drives you the 2 miles right down this road here, we don't charge you. And you know, times are kind of tough economically right now, so that was a blessing. And they also volunteered to go get my car out of the parking lot, which was a couple miles from where we were. They volunteered to get my car and drive it over to the hospital as well, so that it wouldn't get locked in after hours when they closed up the park. And so phenomenal. That was just phenomenal. So we go to the hospital, and we sit for like 6 hours maybe. I get seen right away. Like, you get the COVID screening, I'm good, go right in and get seen, and they're starting to talk to me about all these things, and I guess I was being seen by a resident, but then the attending doctor who was kind of supervising this resident walked in and said, all right, so we just want to know, has anybody ever dropped dead in your family before? Just dropped dead with no warning? And my wife and I just remember us both like laughing. I'm hooked up to like oxygen and an IV and all this, and he said, well, we're trying to figure out if you had a stroke or if you had a heart attack or whatever, what's going on. You know, he said it wasn't asthma. It wasn't asthma, which I have pretty bad. He said it wasn't an asthma attack. It wasn't a sugar issue and all that. And so, long story short, because this is getting kind of long, I had what's called a vasovagal syncope episode, which I had never heard of before. Turns out one of my really good friends had it with me on a trip one time, and when I was texting with him, he was like, dude, that's what I had that night when, you know, when it happened, we were on our road trip. And so I was like, oh, okay. But basically my blood pressure just dropped for no reason. The same kind of thing when you're watching a movie and the guy's watching his wife give birth and he just passes right out. It was that kind of episode, so it was kind of random. But the whole point of this and how it ties back around, my kids really did save my life because they had the presence of mind to call 911. They had the training to do so. They had the presence of mind to like do everything the dispatcher said. My son was telling me how he had to count my breaths for the dispatcher, how he had to try to get a heartbeat. He was struggling with that a little bit. My other son had to go out to the main trail because I was down this little side trail just a little bit. Go to the main trail and watch for people and get help, and then help guide the paramedics or the rangers in and all that good stuff. So that was awesome that they had the presence of mind. And that, a lot of times we think about all the negative things involving kids who've experienced trauma, and my boys have experienced some trauma in their life, and I'm sure that kind of added to it a little bit. But they've had some real physical and emotional trauma before. And so with this episode, though, their strengths come out, because even though that trauma is so terrible, the things that they have, the things that have happened to them that's really, really bad, it does produce this resolve in them, and it strengthens their flight skills. And so when something like this happens, they sharpen up and they know exactly what to do, and they know how to react in a crisis. We've seen this before when other people in our house have been sick, or when we've had a death in the family, or when there's been like a storm or whatnot. Those skills, those survival skills pop right back out, and they're strong kids, emotionally and mentally and internally, and I think that's one of the things that we don't talk about often enough with kids who have endured foster care or have endured hard things in life, that it develops those really good strengths. So that being said, really, really proud of them, and I'm really, really glad that if this had to happen, that God had it happen right where there was easy landmarks for these guys to tell, onto the first responders. And then the footnote to this is I paid a price for it too, because when I passed out, apparently I passed out into a red anthill. We didn't know this for a few days until like all these really painful like bites started popping up all over me. I think we lost count at like 70, 75 somewhere. We lost count. But we asked my oldest son, we said, hey, my wife was Googling pictures of these little things, like trying to figure out what they were, and came across red ant bites. And my oldest, she said, hey, when dad fell, was he near ants? And my son was like, oh yeah, big old anthill. And they were all over him. So it's like, oh, okay, well, great. So if that's the worst of it, then that's the worst of it. But I'm all good now. There's no long lasting effects. It's just one of those things that was a little uncomfortable. But anyway, this is getting really, really long. But just always, think about that as a strength for foster and adopted kids, that when crisis comes, that they really, really have some resolve and they really do well. And that's something that we should praise them for, because that's just a result of all the bad stuff that's happened to them. So anyway, till next time, thank you. Take a minute, visit afcdad.com, or go visit AFC Dad on Facebook and follow. I'd appreciate it. Thank you guys. Bye.